I would yield to Senator Ayotte up to 10 minutes, or such time as she may consume.
Madam President.
The senator from New Hampshire.
Thank you very much. Today marks the 756th day without a budget, and the Democrat majority has abdicated a basic responsibility that we have in our government, and that is to produce a budget. You know, states produce a budget, cities and towns produce a budget, small businesses don't operate without a budget, and families produce a budget. Yet here we are running over a $1.6 trillion deficit this year alone. And the Democrat-controlled majority, I'm a new member of the Budget Committee, they're not bringing forth a budget or a blueprint for our country to put us on a path of fiscal responsibility. It seems to me if we do nothing else here, that's a basic responsibility we have as members of the Senate. On Monday, all Republican senators joined Senator Sessions and I in sending a letter to the majority leader urging him to take the steps necessary to bring forward a fiscal year 2012 budget in committee, to have a full, honest debate, and then to the floor to make sure that we have a transparent budget debate that the American people can weigh in on so that we can put our country on a fiscally responsible path. As a reminder, the committee should have acted on the budget resolution before the statutory set deadline of April 1st, and Congress should have completed that action by April 15th. Yet, unfortunately, the majority in the Budget Committee and the majority leader has ignored that law. The reality is the majority party controls the workflow in the Budget Committee and determines what is debated here on the floor. And given the enormity of the obvious fiscal challenges that we face, there is no excuse for why my Democrat colleagues have not been able to have a transparent, serious debate, both in the Budget Committee and on this floor, about our country's fiscal future. The American people demand and are owed nothing less. Unfortunately, instead of coming up with a budget blueprint that puts us on a path to sustainability, many of my Democrat colleagues have primarily focused their efforts on distorting provisions of the House-passed budget plan, trying to score political points while our country's economic future becomes even more precarious. And we've seen the warning signs for our country and other countries around the world and what has happened there, including recently the S&P's negative outlook on our bond rating. Astoundingly, last week, the majority leader said it would be foolish for his party to produce a budget plan. In talking directly with my constituents in New Hampshire, I can say with certainty that that's the last word that they would use to describe the Senate's refusal to have their own budget plan and to have a full and robust debate within the Budget Committee and within this body about the fiscal plan for our country's future. That's the last word they would use because they sit around their kitchen tables at home, they put together a budget, they look at the revenue coming in and the expenses they have and they balance their budgets, and they have no idea why we aren't doing that here, and that should be a fundamental responsibility that unfortunately the majority leader has described as foolish, even though it's an exercise that families undertake every single day. Last year, Congress failed to pass a budget, failed to pass any of the 12 annual appropriation bills, and failed the nation by recklessly funding the government on a series of short-term spending bills. The Senate cannot make the same mistake that we made last year that was made by the Democrat-controlled Congress this year, given the fiscal path that our country is on. With less than 6 months remaining until the start of the new fiscal year, it's past time for the Senate to produce a basic budget plan that substantively addresses our grave fiscal crisis. We need leadership, and I would call on the majority leader to show that leadership and the chairman of the Budget Committee to bring forth the budget in our Senate committee. And I'm a brand new member of the Budget Committee. I look forward to having that debate in that very important committee in our body, to work together with members on both sides of the aisle to craft a responsible budget plan that reduces spending and brings us to a balanced budget. That's what our country needs. In the letter that was sent to the majority leader, Republicans made clear that we're ready to make the difficult choices to preserve our country and to get our fiscal house in order once and all. We stand ready to preserve the greatest country in the world. There's no question that the budget process is broken when we don't even have a budget brought forth before the Budget Committee and a full and robust debate in this body. Congress must get serious about putting in place spending reforms. I'd like to see a balanced budget amendment to our Constitution to make sure that Congress can't get around any spending reforms that we pass. You know, states balance their budget, and yet here in Washington, we just continue to spend money that we do not have, unfortunately. Now, Congressman Ryan and the House has proposed, and the House has passed, a budget blueprint for our country. Yet my friends on the other side of the aisle have spent considerable time demagoguing the House budget blueprint and their plan, even though they've shown the courage to put forth a budget that puts us on a path to reduce spending and eventually brings us to a balanced budget. They brought out the usual scare tactics, but for all their grandstanding, they haven't been straight with the American people. We do need to address entitlement reform. We do need to make changes to Medicare to preserve Medicare for those who are relying on Medicare right now and for future generations. I'm the mother of 2 children, and I certainly don't want to look my children in the eye with the fiscal crisis that our country is facing and have them say to me, "Mom, what did you do about this?" Now is the time to act. We have 3 choices when it comes to addressing rising healthcare costs in Medicare. We can do nothing and watch the program go bankrupt in 2024, as outlined by the recent trustees report of Medicare, an objective report that basically says that program will go bankrupt by 2024. We can go forward with the president's proposal to ration care through the administration's plan to have an unelected board of 15 bureaucrats who are going to decide who's going to get coverage, when they're going to get coverage, and how physicians are going to get paid. Or we can show real leadership and strengthen the program to make it solvent for current beneficiaries and also for future beneficiaries of our country, and allow them to make the choices instead of an unelected group of 15 individuals that's accountable not to Congress and certainly not to the people whose lives will be affected. I commend Congressman Ryan for his courageousness, and I challenge anyone, including the members on the other side of the aisle who've been so critical of the plan, where is your plan? What is your constructive plan to save Medicare? How do you go home to your constituents, your elderly constituents, people like my grandparents who are relying on Medicare, knowing that the trustees report says that it's going bankrupt in 2024, and say to them, I don't have a plan? A constructive plan to preserve this program is important. It's what Republicans are committed to. We are here to save Medicare, to save our entitlement programs, and most of all, to save our country from financial ruin. Now is the time for leadership. It's time to look at the challenges we face with eyes wide open and to have the courage to fight for the American people and for the future of the greatest country in the world. We cannot afford to kick this can down the road.
The senator has used 10 minutes.
Thank you. If I may finish up, thank you, Senator Sessions.
Certainly.
We cannot afford to kick this can down the road any further. We must act now. We must address our entitlement programs now. And I would call on the majority leader, I would call on Senate Democrats, rather than demagoguing the plan that has come forward from the House, if you have a constructive plan of your own, please come to the floor right now and bring it forth that will preserve Medicare, will preserve our entitlement programs, and put us on a path to fiscal responsibility and sustainability, to a balanced budget to save our country. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator departs. I want to thank her for
Senator from Alabama.
our good comments and